Am I the asshole for not joining my dad and his wife on mini vacations for my sick stepsister? I, 17 male, live primarily with my mom and I see my dad one weekend a month because he's lived 4 hours from us since I was 9 and my sister, 20 female, was 12. Last year my dad got married again. His wife has a 7-year-old daughter, she might be 6, with this rare chronic blood issue that has affected her heart. It could be terminal if she doesn't get the right transplants and she's a rare blood type and they struggle to get the match for I think bone marrow? But she's also waiting for a heart transplant. I don't know all the details. I'm not that invested in my dad's life or the stuff going on with his new family. I am with them one weekend a month and I try not to let my disinterest hurt the kid. This means she has bonded with me even though it's totally one-sided and I think it's because her life has revolved a lot around her health and hospitals and she doesn't have a big family or friends because she rarely is healthy enough to go to school. With all that said, they take her on mini vacations when she can and when they can afford to. My dad wanted me and my sister to join in as often as we can so his stepdaughter can have family around her, just in case. Like in case she doesn't survive. I know she wants me there. My sister has never met her so I'm not sure she cares about her. But my dad does and his wife really fucking cares. She surprised me but she cares. They invited me on like 9 already and I never go. I never want to. After the last one his stepdaughter ended up in the hospital and was so sick. They were angry that it could have been it and my sister and I weren't there and didn't make it extra special for her. They asked if I wouldn't feel awful if she died and I didn't get to say goodbye. That I didn't make her final moment special. Am I the asshole? Trying to force someone to care is only going to backfire. You were polite. You see your dad one weekend a month. Your dad's new wife is trying to turn this time into time for your stepsister. They have been married a year and you have been invited on 9 mini vacations. Not the asshole. The weekends should be time for you to spend with your dad. No, you're not the asshole for not wanting to go on the mini vacations, but it might be worth considering how much it means to your stepsister and your family. Sometimes, small gestures can make a big difference, especially for someone going through such a tough time. Not the asshole. Tell your dad that he and his wife are making their kid's life worse by peddling these false fantasies that have no basis in reality. Remind him that he's barely around for you, so he has no right to demand that you and your sister become emotional support animals for his do-over family. That poor kid has been led on by their insistence that you will drop everything for her, and they should be ashamed of themselves for doing that to her. I am torn on this one. Your stepsister has bonded with you even if it is a one-sided bond. Would it hurt if you showed a little compassion? That said, I also completely see where you are coming from on this. You don't have much of a relationship with your dad or his new wife and her daughter. I suspect you are only going because it is court mandated that you go once a month. I am going everyone sucks here on this. A. For your dad and his wife pushing this and getting angry when you and your sister won't go on these mini holidays. B. This very ill child obviously likes you and feels she has a bond with you and you could just once in a while make it a bit special for her. It's nice to be nice. Either no assholes here or everyone sucks here, apart from SS. I can see everyone's perspective and sympathize with each. You don't have to do anything. But for an ill child not even in my family, I would go out of my way to make them smile. To have rejected 9 mini vacations, perhaps says a lot about you. Perhaps you are focused on the resentment to your father and this is the primary driver, but there's a little girl out there who loves you. She must be tired and perhaps in pain. I suspect she's a little afraid. She clearly doesn't have many friends, external relationships. Can you not be kind to her? Not for your dad or SM but for her. No criticism if you can't. Sometimes the cost to our mental health is too much. Not the asshole. Sounds like he mostly wants you because his stepdaughter wants you. When she does die, will he still invite you for trips? He's asking if you'd feel bad. But honestly, would you really? Of course any child dying is sad in general, but it's okay if you're not as affected as him and his wife. Am I the asshole for telling my sister that I can't go to her wedding without my son? I, 24, have a 5-year-old son named Sam. I had my son at a very young age, as did his father, John, with whom I have a healthy relationship to this day. John is American, I am not. So he got married when I got pregnant so we could all live here in the US. My family was not happy with my pregnancy and pretty much shut me out of their lives. John's parents very happily accepted me, but they are very old, and all the responsibility of caring for Sam falls on us, which means no nights off, no frequent dates, and nothing that generally can't involve Sam. The responsibility falls especially on me since I take care of the household while John works long shifts. 6 months ago, my mother called me to tell me that my sister was getting married. During a video call, my sister asked me to be her maid of honor, which I excitedly accepted. However, when I received the invitation, problems arose. The wedding was to be in my country, and each guest was required to cover their own travel, lodging, and clothing expenses. John offered to work overtime so that Sam and I could go, and after months of extra work, I managed to buy a nice dress and book a simple hotel room. A month before the wedding, I called my sister to confirm our attendance, and that's when she informed me that children were not allowed at the ceremony. I told her that wasn't specified on the invitation, it literally wasn't written anywhere on the invitation, and she said she hoped everyone would just take that for granted. I explained that I didn't have anyone to leave Sam with, and reminded her of our financial situation, and she suggested leaving him with John or hire a nanny. John works long shifts, and we don't have the budget for a nanny for so many days just for a wedding. She compared the situation to when I hired a nanny during my father's hospitalization, which seemed pretty stupid to me since it was a medical emergency and not a social event. After an argument, I told her that I would have to decline my role as bridesmaid since I couldn't leave my son. I want to clarify that I never asked her to make an exception for Sam, because I understand that weddings are not places for children. Lol, I'm not an idiot, just a person who doesn't take things for granted. I just wanted her to understand my situation after I told her I couldn't go. She called me selfish and mentioned that she had already paid for my place in the wedding. I offered to reimburse her with the money for the dress, but she just hung up. Now there are 2 weeks left until the wedding, but I keep getting messages from her, calls to insult me and emails arguing that since I live in the US I should have enough money for a babysitter, which at least in my opinion is totally ridiculous. I got the money back for the dress and the hotel, and I plan to give it back to John unless my sister claims it to cover the wedding expenses, but if she doesn't, well, I don't know if I should offer it to her again. It would have been perfectly fine for the sister to not want her very young nephew at the ceremony. However, she should have looked for a babysitter for the day, and welcomed nephew for the visit. Op couldn't do that from another country. Sister is not someone I would travel so far and spend so much money to support. Op, give the money back to your husband. Are there any household expenses coming up? The fridge working well? Roof's good? How's the car? Is there something you two want that's too much for regular bills? Do you want to save the money for an emergency? Start a college fund for your son? Much better than wasting the money to see someone who just wants to be mean. I'm gonna be real. I don't think the wedding is actually child-free. I think based on the fact OP's family shut her out when she got pregnant and are just no opening lines of communication that there's something going on. Like they're trying to trap Op in the home country away from her child and spouse. IDK. I vaguely remember seeing a post way back about someone whose family tried luring them to the home country to force them to marry someone the family had picked. I'm not saying that's what is going on, but something is definitely off emo. Definitely not the asshole. Stay home. Not the asshole. A wedding invite without clear conditions is like a recipe without instructions. Chaos is bound to ensue. Expecting guests, especially those traveling internationally, to automatically know that children aren't welcome is a bit of a stretch. Your sister's failure to communicate effectively isn't your fault. You've done what you can to be supportive and offered solutions post-discovery of the "no kids" rule. It's not selfish to prioritize your child's well-being and your family's financial situation over a wedding. If offering the dress and hotel refund money back eases your mind, do so, but your sister's response, or lack thereof, is on her. Not the asshole. If it was supposed to be a child-free wedding, that should have been said in the invitation. She can't expect everyone to know it's child-free without informing her guests. She sounds manipulative and toxic and highly unsympathetic. Saying you can't be there, offering to reimburse, those things were all good to do. That she dropped the bomb on you so late in the game was deliberate. To call you names and demand you lay out money you don't have is simply not something that you can do, and you can't feel guilty for it. You offered the money, she refused, you don't need to give it to her. I would block her for a while, or stop reading anything she sends. Not the asshole. How did your sister expect you to just know children weren't welcome at the wedding if it wasn't on the invitation and she didn't use her big girl words and say so while you were making plans? You're not a mind reader, I presume, and if you were going back to your home country you likely assumed your son was not only welcome, but as part of the family, would he someone your family wanted there? It sounds like your sister is a little jealous that you live in the US. If she only knew the realities she might feel differently, but at any rate, you tried your best. Her poor communication skills left you with no choice but to step away, and she has no one to blame but herself. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for my girlfriend not getting into the school she wanted? My girlfriend is a non-traditional college student. She completed her associates last spring with a very high GPA and meant to apply to some prestigious schools. Whenever she started working on her applications, though, she would panic and shut down. She ended up missing all of her deadlines. She did complete her application for one Ivy League school, but didn't submit it at the last moment, saying it was embarrassing and that she had no place there. I didn't know what to do in these moments, to be honest, but I am sure what I did wasn't right. She would really shut down and pull into herself, going into a 1,000-yard stare or breaking down in tears. I tried consoling her, but I can't remember a time it worked. I read over her application essays and made suggestions, but she would get defensive and reject them. I'm a pretty bad writer and she's a very good one, so that was likely the right call. Now she's at a local public university and in tears every day because she finds it isn't the right fit. She blames me and tells me I didn't help enough, that she never felt supported through the process. I asked how I could have helped, and she called me an asshole, saying she didn't know how to explain how to help people. She says she doesn't know if she can forgive me for this. I am willing to accept I'm the asshole and I'm what's holding her back, but I legitimately don't know what I should have done. How does one help an adult shutting down? What was I supposed to do in this situation? I honestly feel terrible, and having no idea what my proper role should have been just makes it worse. Not the asshole, it doesn't sound like it was your fault at all. If she knew you didn't have the capacity to help her through it, then she should have sought out help elsewhere. There's definitely more qualified people out there who could have helped her that she could have found and asked. You are her boyfriend, not an admission coach, and yes, as her boyfriend you're there to help her through everything in life, but she seriously cannot put this on you. You did what most people would have done. The only thing you could have done differently maybe is to advise her to seek professional help from a coach, but surely she should have thought about that herself? I understand her sadness and frustration at how things turned out, but it's not her fault and maybe she could transfer next year. Not the asshole. This woman does not belong in a pressure cooker school. She needs to talk to a therapist to figure out her own stuff and stop blaming you for her shortcomings. You deserve better. Not the asshole. She blames me and tells me I didn't help enough, that she never felt supported through the process. I asked how I could have helped, and she called me an asshole. That was a very valid question and it's telling she didn't have an answer. Your girlfriend needs to work on, maybe get professional support, read the processes that stopped her applying to the schools she wanted. I am willing to accept I'm the asshole and I'm what's holding her back. I'm reiterating strongly that you aren't on either front. It sounds like you did all you could. Please stop blaming yourself. Not the asshole. It's clear your girlfriend needs some mental health help. She seems to have anxiety and depression. Her behavior reminds me of me at her age. I'm not sure there is actually anything you can do to help her until she gets some counseling. Buddy, you are absolutely not the asshole. Your girlfriend abdicated responsibility for her own life and, when things didn't turn out as she'd wished, started casting blame on you. This is utterly unfair. And, in my humble opinion, it's a reason to rethink the relationship. What could you have done? Not a damn thing more than you did. Please stop blaming yourself for this. Not the asshole. There is nothing you could do to help her. She needs psychiatric help. She is sabotaging herself and then blaming you, others for her inaction. Unasked for relationship advice. Run. Am I the asshole for sharing my opinion with my brother and warning him about his wife unprompted? My brother, 36M, and his wife Emma, 35F, have known each other for the best part of 2 decades. They were in the same friend group toward the end of high school and lost touch after graduation for a while, but ended up reconnecting when the larger friend group reconnected. Then Emma moved away and they lost touch again. In that time my brother got married and had his kids, 11M and 9F. Emma moved back about 5 years ago and started spending more time with the old friend group, my brother included. Though they didn't seem to get closer until after the death of one of their shared friends. My brother's marriage to the mother of his children was never super great. It only got worse when the kids were no longer babies, however, and they separated 4 years ago. Their divorce was finalized a little over 2 years later. Before the divorce was finalized, my brother and Emma started dating. They broke up briefly and got back together, but Emma's attitude toward the kids' mom was incredibly negative around the time of the breakup and remained the same after they got back together. Emma and my brother got engaged fast and then my brother's ex, the kids' mom, died. The kids weren't happy about living with Emma and less so about Emma trying to step into a motherly role for them. They know how she felt about their mom, and with her gone the loyalty pull was stronger and the dislike for Emma more intense. My brother and Emma's wedding day was a shit show and the kids protested the whole way through, which my brother was aware of, but he said they'd been okay with Emma before, as in before he dated her. So they were just protesting him being with anyone who wasn't their mom. Emma is jealous of the kids' mom. She's jealous the kids still love her. She still hates their mom for reasons I don't know. The kids know she hates their mom and they use it to taunt her. They tell her almost every day, if Emma is to be believed, that she'll never be as good as their mom and they will never love her or accept her because she isn't good enough. They compare Emma's cooking to their mom's, they compare the way she decorates, stuff like that. I know they do it. But I also know Emma has kicked up a fuss about the kids keeping their mom's things and having them in their bedrooms, as well as having photographs of her. Which, if you ask me anything, is likely the reason the kids are so quick to compare the way they do. The household is toxic. Emma's jealousy of their mom grows and the kids' dislike for Emma grows. My brother acts like things are fine and he's burying his head about the growing issues. I decided not to ignore it and addressed this with my brother. I told him Emma and the kids are not getting along and her jealousy is going to make his home even more of a living hell than it already is. And I told him I did not think Emma could come back from her jealousy and warned him that she could cost him the kids. He told me he didn't ask for my opinion and to mind my own business. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. It sounds like your brother is a bit in denial, and pretty much knows what's happening but doesn't want to deal with it. With the kids protesting on his wedding day, regardless of it being because of Emma or him marrying anyone else, he should have built that trust and ensured that the trust got built with Emma before marrying. The way you describe it, it wasn't just a little bit of uncomfortableness with their dad moving on. Your brother has his head in the sand about his marriage-family situation. That said, unsolicited advice, particularly about someone's marriage, is often not well received. You might have considered asking your brother if he wanted to hear your concerns, opinions, or gently opening up a conversation where you might be able to share these. You were well-meaning, but you handled this clumsily. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, but just be prepared in a few years when he gonna claim. Where did he messed up? Because he seems he can't take accountability. Lol. The kid's gonna leave that house the moment they turn 18. Either he stays with Emma or not. They saw he chooses Emma before them and that's not something you can forget. Maybe forgive, but not gonna be enough for the kids to want to have a good relationship with him. Not the asshole. I don't think I believe anything Emma says without some confirmation from the kids. I also wouldn't put it past her to go into the kids' rooms and destroy those photos of their mother, and maybe also throw out or damage their mother's things. Consider offering the kids to get copies made of the photos that you keep so they're not lost. You might even offer to let them store some of their mother's things with you. Not the asshole. If you can't address your concerns with your family, there's no hope for any of us. Now the thing is, you must not raise this issue again. He knows your concerns and how you feel. You may have planted a seed or just hardened his resolve to ignore the family dynamic. Time will tell. Try to be there for his kids, but also encourage them to focus on other parts of their lives, school, hobbies, friends. It's so destructive and unhealthy for them to be so focused on riling her up. Honestly, you're just looking out for him and the kids. Emma's jealousy sounds intense, and it's affecting everyone. I get why you'd feel like he needs to face it, even if he didn't ask.